Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar this afternoon. I'm just as usual letting time for people to come on, and their numbers are increasing rapidly, which is great. And today we are going to look at your wholesale strategy and your terms and conditions, which are extremely important. So today, to discuss this topic, I have Siobhan Flynn, who's going to be looking at it from a retailer perspective. I have Nuala Brown Tracy, who's going to be looking at it from a maker and mentor perspective, and particularly with the consideration of COVID this year. And then taking up the rear, I have Marion McDonnell, and Marion is going to look at all things to do with terms and conditions at a general level. And when we get into the Q&A at the end, if you have any specific questions, we will deal with them then. So with that, Siobhan, I'll make you co-host, and you may go ahead and share your screen.
Great.
So thank you for that. While Siobhan is working on her screen there, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all of you who've been with us since the 25th of March. We've had 61 webinars, and it has given us a great level of research that you can all come back to and reference. And we have more exciting departures planned for 2021. So thank you, Siobhan.
One sec. Great. So welcome, everyone. Just a quick, brief bio on myself. As Emer said, I'm going to be talking to you today about terms and conditions, but from the retailer's point of view. So with that in mind, just to let you know that I have been in retail buying for 20 plus years in different capacities, from department store buying to sort of tourist shop buying, and to my current role as a buying director and commercial or creative lead for an Irish subscription box. So I'd like to just start by touching on the fact that, and this is something that all of you are well aware of. So for you to successfully work with your retailers, you have to understand their wants and their needs. Now, I mean, that's pretty much a no-brainer, but sometimes when you put it into words and you kind of read the sentence out loud, and you sort of to realize, yeah, I know what I need as a wholesaler, but maybe if I put myself in the shoes of a retailer, I might start to better understand what they're looking for as well. I think it's really important for us to understand that we're not against each other. We're here to work together and to better each other. So just to briefly recap what's been going on in the retail landscape, and I think, again, everyone here is well aware of this last year being really extraordinary. And what we'll just briefly talk about is what the retail landscape looks like right now, and how we've been weathering that storm, and what lies ahead for retailers, how we embrace these changes, and these changes, how we can use these changes to actually start to reshape the retail landscape for possibly the better. So let's start. So the here and now. From a retailer's point of view, I can tell you the things that are sort of niggling at me right now, and I know my colleagues or my counterparts in different retail businesses, logistics, delivery issues. These are really big issues right now. And it's not just from wholesalers finding it difficult to get their products to the retailer, it's also retailers trying to get their products to their customers. So it has this whole domino effect, and it is I suppose a global issue as well. And it's something that all of us together, I think, are trying to work through. And there have definitely been some improvements since the earlier days of the pandemic. I've definitely seen massive improvements on, I supply product to the United States, and certainly our supply issues or our delivery issues have abated. So improvements have definitely come about. Procurement issues, this ties into logistics and deliveries, obviously. But this is also an interesting thing because at the beginning of the pandemic, with our first lockdown, and this was, unheard of, what you may have as wholesalers, what you may have or may not have experienced are order cancellations, possibly. Retailers were glutted with stock that they couldn't push in the normal ways that they would have done business. And what did this do? I suppose it put a little bit of panic in in a retail buyer, as well as retail buyers forward plan for the most part, certainly for this biggest part of the year, the Christmas season. So possibly there could have been a mindset of, I need to pull back from orders, I need to reduce orders. And what happens then is that wholesalers then have to readjust, and and then their production output lessens. And then we kind of end up where we are now, which, I mean, you might look as a positive. I think probably in large part to the amazing buy local, buy Irish marketing campaign. It's been fantastic. And I see lots of makers sold out, having to close their websites, having to concentrate on one revenue stream only. And while you can look at this as an incredible positive because they're actually selling another product, you think this is also a result of that oversupply in the spring and that underproduction right now. So it's about how we, as a team, as a wholesaler, retailer team, we sort of future-proof ourselves against that happening again. You can't future-proof it completely, but we can definitely, I think, make some adjustments to try and, limit our exposure as much as possible. And then, I spoke about order cancellations. Obviously, business closures would have definitely left some wholesalers with stock that they found it difficult to shift. Sadly, some of these businesses did not reopen. But then again, we have strong online growth, and I think that a major positive of this pandemic, if you can point at a positive, is that so many makers really outdid themselves on creating fabulous interactive websites and really getting their products out there, not just to retailers, but direct to the customers. And that's amazing. That sort of exposure not only helps the wholesaler themselves, but it also helps their retail partners. The more exposure, good exposure a brand has, the better it is for the actual retailer, that familiarity. And then, of course, there's things like the logistics of safe in-store shopping. Retailers have worked really hard on this, and the looming lockdown. So yeah, stores are open right now, but we don't know what's coming in January, and people are wary and people are a little bit scared. And January is always kind of glutted with sales anyway. So it's a very strange situation. Moving forward, if I sat here 6 months ago and I said bricks and mortar customers experience change, their experiences changed, yes, and I would have said that they had changed drastically. But I kind of look at it now after a few months, and I think our customers have really adapted very well under these really extraordinary circumstances. Now, this is important. It's important for a wholesaler as well, that retail plans, purchases, and assortments will have to be reevaluated. And of course, they would have done this all through the past several months. But of course, they need to forecast going further as well. So I think it's here that the relationship building and the partnership will really come into play about how retailers and wholesalers can work together most effectively to ensure a steady supply of products and steady revenue for both the wholesaler and the retailer. And that ties in with the purchasing habits of retail buyers because, you know, so when, especially when I was a department store buyer, it was always forward planning. About 90% of my purchasing would have been done at least 6 months ahead of time, if not further. Um, that buyers are a little bit wary of that. So having the flexibility to have shorter lead times is really helpful. Now, this is obviously the main crux of the today's webinar, and I know that Nuala and Marion will touch on this in more detail or in greater detail from the wholesaler's point of view. But what I do want to say, and I think this is really important, is that wholesalers obviously have their terms and conditions, and that's it's of vital importance. But do remember that retailers also have their terms and conditions, and don't imagine for a second that a retailer will accept a wholesaler or a maker's terms and conditions as superseding their own. So I think with that in mind, it's important to understand the main points of a retailer's terms and conditions and what they would expect from the wholesaler. The most important aspect of the terms and conditions is the timely delivery of the goods. That's what retailers are looking for. They are looking for you to deliver within the time frame that they have stipulated, and that the goods delivered are in saleable condition. Those are the two main and most important aspects of any terms and conditions. Without those, you are definitely in jeopardy of that order being canceled. So that is the most important. Do not overpromise on delivery times. If you cannot make a delivery date, do not tell them that you can. Be honest about what you can achieve in a certain time frame. That is of the utmost importance. Also, remember when buyers are buying something, it's not just the product. Possibly they might have agreed certain packaging and certain other aspects of the buy. If for some reason you can't follow through on any of those, you must inform them. Do not leave anything up to chance. Let people know. A quick phone call, most buyers are understanding, and there will be some sort of compromise. Do not replace products without prior approval. So if I ordered this cup, but you've run out, I replace it with this cup. That is very, very similar, but it's not the same one. It's not acceptable. It doesn't mean the buyer won't take it, but what it does mean is that you should let them know, give them the option. You have to give them the opportunity to decide for themselves, and that covers you, and it saves a lot of hassle. Damages, obviously, a big thing. So this is always a really tricky one because wholesalers will have their damages must be reported immediately or within 7 days or within 14 days. And you know, it really depends on the wholesaler. And retailers, obviously, the bigger they are, sometimes the longer it takes for all deliveries to be unpacked. So really, you have to have a fair way of dealing with damages. And it must be done efficiently as well. Do mention, and retailers will stipulate their shipping terms, their payment terms, and their discount structures. Now, it's important to note that they will have standard terms within their terms and conditions, but that doesn't mean that that is what you've agreed upon. So that is when you bring your purchase order or your order confirmation. So this is also a contract. Your order, the buyer sends you their purchase order, and this has everything that you've agreed and you've discussed, including your payment terms. You send an order confirmation, and this confirms everything that was discussed. That way, any changes to that have to be done in writing or via email, or you know, depending on the relationship you have with the buyer. And then do note that retailers do have the right to cancel or refuse an order, either partially or entirely, for non-compliance of any of the above. That, again, I'm not saying that most retailers will not do this. However, if you allow yourself to be exposed in any of these areas, you do leave yourself open to having your order canceled. And maybe it's only a small order and you already have a customer lined up for it, so you don't mind. But maybe it's a really big customer and losing that order is detrimental to your business. So dot your I's, cross your T's, and just cover yourselves. And then what I do want to say is that, and I think I alluded to this at the start, is that we're in the same boat. It's not you against me. So we're not different. What are we looking for? We are looking for the exact same things. We're looking for terms and conditions that protect us, that protect our business. We're looking for profit. You're looking for profit. I'm looking for a profit. We're looking for our business to be sustainable. We're looking for them to be successful. And we're looking for them to be secure, and we're looking for reassurances. How do we get all of this? By building our relationships. It's something that has probably been said over and over and over again. The most important aspect of most businesses is building that network of working relationships that you know that you can count on people, and that you can negotiate fairly with people, that you're looking for not a once-off order. You're looking to build on the business. And when you can do that effectively, then it's a win-win situation for both of you. So I kind of hope that that helps you a bit. It just touches on it. There's so much more involved in it, but what I do want to say to all of you, and this isn't meant to sound condescending or patronizing, but I'm really proud of all of the designers and craftspeople and makers out there over this past year, working with you, and that you've all worked so hard, and it's a testament to the business and to Ireland itself. So I just want to wish you all a really successful 2021. Thank you.
Siobhan, thank you very much for that. It didn't sound patronizing at all. I'd just like to reiterate the superb innovation and resilience that craft and design makers have shown this year. I mean, it really is remarkable, and I think that the fruits of their hard work are beginning to really pay off, and I think it's been helped by campaigns such as Made Local and people buying local. And whoever hears this, I want them to continue to buy local in abundance. But I think even though it's been very, very testing and trying, the designer makers have come up with the goods and have shown huge resilience. So speaking from, I'm not going to call it the other camp, because as Siobhan, you said, we're both in the same camp. I'd like to hand over to you, Nuala, because you're going to look at things from a wholesaler designer maker perspective. Okay, thank you, Nuala.
Thank you.
Do you need me now? I'll make you co-host. Yeah. Just bear with me here. You've stopped sharing your screen, Siobhan, haven't you?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Here to challenge me, isn't it? Right. I'll get there. Do you know what I'm going to do while I'm getting there? Marion, can I call you into your words of wisdom on terms and conditions? Do you mind?
You can, of course, after I unmute myself.
You unmute yourself.
Okay, hi folks. My name is Marion MacDonald, and I've been working with you for far more years than I care to remember. Emer has asked me to speak to you on terms of trading and the paperwork, etc. So while Nuala is, putting her stuff together, if you don't mind, I'll cut in. First of all, the terms of trading cannot be agreed and cannot be done verbally, because what comes out of my mouth and reaches your ear are two absolutely, totally different things. So you have to have the written word. So if we take a step back and we'll go back to your paperwork. Right. Now, I advise in all the years I've been dealing with you creative people, and it's been a pleasure working with you because I'm not on the creative side. Right. I have always said that if you can spend about 90% of your time being creative, designing and making your product, the other 10% can be used on paperwork. And if you can get your paperwork done and done correctly, it will just flow thereafter. So the first bit of paperwork is the invoice, and this is what you'll have your terms of trading on. Now, your invoice, the paperwork leaving your office, and your office can be the end of your bed, it can be the kitchen table, we call it your studio. The paperwork leaving your studio has got to promote you. And I can only assume your product, your branding, packaging, all of that is perfect. So the final link in the chain is the invoice. And on that invoice, you should be promoting you. So it shouldn't be a handwritten, scribbled bit of paper. It should have your brand on it, your name, your contact details, etc. It should have on it your bank details, your name, your IBAN, your BIC, etc. And on the end of it, then your terms of trading. And we'll come back to doing the actual terms of trading in a couple of minutes. But you have to make sure that all of these things are on your invoice. And if you're registered for VAT, make sure you've got your IE and your 7-digit PPS number also on it. Also, before you look at your terms of trading, bear in mind that you're only a link in the chain. You are buying stock or raw material from somebody. You're getting it, you're doing something with it, and then you're selling it directly to the customers or you're wholesaling. So you have to really look at two different terms of trading. The terms of trading that's coming from your suppliers, etc. So it's a good indication as to what would be the norm terms of trading. So look at what somebody is offering you and then what you must offer somebody else. But I would say to you, from my experience, terms of trading, they don't have to be carved in stone. And as Siobhan said, it isn't two camps. There's you as a designer and a maker, and you're trying to make top quality products, sell them to the right route to market. And you've got the shopkeeper. A shop is only concrete blocks, and it means nothing. The shop will sell itself, it will promote itself on good products, good innovative products, which is hopefully years. So you've got to bear in mind, you want to produce a good product and make a good standard of living. So does the shop. So you're not in competition. So if you set your terms of trading, and like the first one I would say would be pro forma invoice, and I'm going to go through them in a minute, but pro forma invoice, especially in the current climate, a shopkeeper may not have the cash flow. They may be able to have to say to you, well, we're not dealing with a pro forma invoice, but that's fine, you can go on to 30 days credit. But what it will do is it will make you come across as a very good business person to the person in the shop. Because not only if somebody, say somebody in San Francisco was going to buy your product, they don't only need to know that the product is good, they need a guarantee that you're a good business person, or else the product may never arrive. It may arrive packaged badly, it may not arrive, the order lead time might be way out the window. So somebody buying from you also needs to know that you're a bit of a good business person. You've got to, when you're looking at your terms of trading, look at your routes to market. And generally speaking, you know, if I was talking to you 10 years ago, 5 years ago even, most craft people said the ultimate aim was to get into good retail outlets. Now it's becoming more and more of a balance, a combination of direct route to markets, maybe selling at fairs, maybe trading online, etc. And since the lockdown, I mean, one of the biggest thanks that every craft worker should hand out is to their local Leo office. Those Leo offices have given approved people trading online vouchers. They have given business continuity vouchers, and they've allowed people like us to engage with ye and undertake mentoring. The mentoring that they've been offered, you know, I didn't need to have done a set of accounts this year with the amount of mentoring that was offered out there. And that's the Leos offering these things to ye. So you need to, you know, realize that your Leo is a really, really good partnership. So recognize the type of customers you have. If, for example, you were going to trade online, right, you're not given 30 days credit, needless to say. The packaging, the postage, all of that has got to be built in. And you need to do plenty of research and look at people and organizations that trade online and see what their trading terms of trading are. But generally speaking, there's 5 trades, good trades of terms of trading that I would tell you to make sure that's on your invoices. The first is pro forma on the first or the second order. And pro forma means it's something you've already pre-organized with the retailer. And they are paying you, you know, you let them know when their order is ready to be dispatched. They're paying you in advance, but not so far in advance that you can go and buy the raw materials. But these retailers are showing ye a great confidence because they're paying you before they actually have the goods. And if you can get 1 order or even 2 orders maximum, you're doing very well. But that retailer has shown ye confidence. You now have to reciprocate. So what you're going to do is you're going to give them 30 days credit. Now, I believe you should have written down 30 days credit to approved customers. You should approve them as much as they're approving you. And where this is concerned, every customer is not a good customer, be it a direct customer or be it a retailer, a good retailer. You need to step outside the box and you need to research everybody and look at, is this a good customer? If there's a chance you're not going to get paid, folks, keep your products. Right? But there's a lot of very, very good customers out there. But the onus is on you to make sure that you research and you make sure they're good customers. So we have pro forma, we have 30 days credit to approved customers. The carriage, who is paying for the carriage? And when I do this on programs all the time, ye craftspeople say to me, oh, I'm not paying for the carriage, that's up to the shopkeeper. No, it isn't. I mean, the retailer wants their profit margin to be as high as possible, so they're going to try and not pay it. You want your profit margin as high as possible, you're going to try and not pay it. But when I'm working with people on the different expenses, the tax deductible expenses, I always build in a bit of carriage. So technically, you have been paid a little bit for the carriage, but you could do something like, whatever you're calling in your company, I am paying the carriage on all orders over €300, €500, whatever it is. It's an incentive for the retailer to buy that little bit more from you. Right? The fourth one is the breakages. Right? If you've got no terms of trading, right, and a lot of people don't, a lot of people, you know, their paperwork is horrendous. And you come along 30, 32, 33 days later, you know, after you're sending out the goods and the invoice, and you ring somebody in an office, right, and they say, oh, I'm terribly sorry, when I opened the box, 16 of those pieces were broken. What are you going to do? You can't call them a liar. Maybe they are telling little untruths, maybe they're not. But you should have written down on it that all damages or breakages must be informed within. Now, I like 5 working days because I think that's almost a week. But you've got to consider, if we went back long before COVID, and we go back to the Celtic Tiger, and in a lot of retail outlets, there was the salespeople and there was the people unpacking the boxes, etc. But in the current climate, in a lot of shops, the buyer, the seller, they're all the one person, and you've got to have respect and have a little bit, give them a bit of time to do these things, to unpack, to check things, etc. The 5th term of trading is called Reservation of Title, or these goods are mine until they're blinking paid for. So I say reservation of title, you're reserving title. And the reason I tell people reservation of title, it's less words because you don't have an awful lot of space on the end of your invoice. But they are the terms of trading that the designer maker should have. But as I say, they need to be discussed with the shop because the shop have their terms of trading. And if a shop wants you badly enough, you're new, innovative, the terms of trading will be bent a little bit. They can be bent, or you can bend them if you want to be in a shop badly enough. So you've got to look at what is your route to market. There's no point in you being fabulous designers and have boxes and boxes of things under the bed. You have to get them out to me, the customer. And if you're using good retail outlets, you've got to appreciate that they are also businesses. They're not there to fleece you. They're there, you're promoting them by having good products on their shelves. They're promoting you because they're the showcase for your products. The last term of trading, which I would never use, and you do not print it, is sale or return. And just be aware that you will be asked for sale or return. Because especially coming out of COVID now, there are a lot of retailers that have stock that they got from Showcase. They're still trying to get rid of them. They may not have the product, the finance to be able to buy new stock, but there's also new people that are opening up and they don't have the confidence to know what products will sell. So sometimes you will be asked for sale or return. Now, if I was your accountant, you're the craftsperson, I would say try and not give sale or return unless you can control it. For example, if you were making beautiful silk scarves, I would say do not give it on sale or return, because if that's hanging in a good shop and say 3 ladies or gentlemen, depending on what they want, 3 people come in, different makeup, different kinds of perfume, they wrap that around their neck. After 3 customers trying that piece cannot be sold. That will have to be returned. So if you're going to do sale or return, try, if you've got a couple of ranges, you could offer some of it on sale or return and some of it on 30 days credit. But if you're going to give sale or return, you need to control it. You need to manage it, because again, the shopkeeper will not always have the time to think, oh, I've just sold 1 piece belong to Marion MacDonald, I better tell her and pay her. They just don't have the time for that. So it's back to you control how you want your product to get out there, what your terms are, but you manage it.
Marion, thank you so much for that. Can we come back to you when we have questions at the end?
Okay.
And I love your piece about sale or return. We'll come back to that. And now can I turn to Nuala, please?
Yeah, perfect.
You want to share your screen? Be off.
It says, Emer, it says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
This is what Okay, is that improving?
Maybe just give it a wee share there. Oh, here I am. That's it.
You okay?
Yeah.
Thanks a million.
No problem. Okay, so yeah, hi there. How are you all? Yes, I'm just nicely following from Marion there. Thank you, Marion, because you mentioned route to market, and I am going to be delivering just a wholesale strategy based on from a perspective from the creative designer and craft person's perspective. So just kind of to give you a wee bit of an overview on the route to market, obviously describes the ranges and services, methods, and how you can get your product in front of the customer, basically. And that could be, the goods, or also it could be your unique value proposition. But I need to introduce myself properly. I'm new to, obviously, to the panel. My name is Nuala Brown Tracy, and my company is called Meraki Marketing. I am more than 25 years in business, and my background is initially as an undergrad in design, but went to Pennies into the buying offices, worked in retail for more years, and I absolutely adore retail businesses, small, large, and independent, very much so. I currently am the founder of Meraki Marketing. So you see all my little contacts there with social media, the tags. So any one of you want to follow me on Marketing Meraki, you're welcome to do so. I do a lot of training and mentoring, and I obviously embed social media marketing into every single thing from a retail perspective. So just a little point of view there to just let you know, the Instagram account Marketing Meraki, every Thursday I do a Meraki Meets. Now I'm taking a break for the Christmas holidays this Thursday, but I've brought on, particularly during the COVID times, live interviews with makers and creatives and inspirational people, just to share their stories and their businesses, to inspire each other, but mainly as well to get them to be comfortable using social media and online strategies. So anyway, enough about me. I want to just talk to you a bit about, obviously, as well, Siobhan and Marion really, more or less mentioned at the very beginning, about how, the lockdown and COVID has been really, horrendous, really, to be fair. It has been, but there has been huge opportunities for, small businesses, for creatives, for ambitious entrepreneurs, or those changing and pivoting in their careers, because the statistics there just recently out by Vision.net have said wholesale and retail trade experienced the biggest growth in Q3. So that's kind of really reassuring, that you see that there's a real movement towards startup. Encouraging statistics indeed are indicating, obviously, that, we're finding our feet. Now, I think obviously looking at the consumer behavior at the moment, in the last 10 months, but even before that, there was a movement certainly from the consumer to be much more conscientious in how they spend, because we're obviously being affected by many things that make us decide to purchase. But also the COVID has now fast-tracked that, and as Emer said, really the shop local, support local has never been much more, has been so prevalent at the moment, and that in itself is encouraging a lot more brave entrepreneurs and ambitious creatives and designers to say, I'm going to start and share my product. Again, Enterprise Ireland have advocated the Irish retail and the urban centres. You're going to see a shift there. Certainly I'm seeing in Waterford here a shift into small, and the high street is changing. Now, I'm hearing that a lot about the UK, because the high street is obviously dramatically shifting there. But in Ireland, I see certainly we are really supporting small and independent. So with that, obviously, we're moving to, online, and we're, obviously the pandemic has reshaped our world, and customers, as I said, are changing where they buy and how they buy and who they buy from. Shifting away from physical stores has happened naturally because of the fact that obviously we've been in lockdown, and shops have been, unfortunately, have had to close and have been affected by, by the restrictions. But the fact that online has fast-tracked very much so, because of we've jumped 5 years into online, and every small business has started to embrace online activities. As you see there, the UK have mentioned there from the Nielsen research, have said that there was a 103% increase in sales in the UK just in Q1. But interesting, I was listening to my old employer, McElhenney's in Ballybofey, and Martin McElhenney was being interviewed in News Talk there recently, just yesterday, and he was saying that how they have seen their business, obviously double, particularly from a website point of view and trading online. And now that they're reopened again, you can actually see that there's a share now, nearly an equal share, as he said, between their website and the brick and mortar offering. So can I just expand a bit more when we look at, and actually Marion has mentioned this, the fact that the direct channel is really, from a wholesale perspective, in which you're looking at as a creative and as a designer and as a craft person, in how we explain that wholesale and the blending now of retail, in which you're probably looking at or have come from, is your B2B. Your B2B could be the market stall originally, way before pandemic, or it could be the department store, and the direct to the consumer is obviously your website and your market stall, or your Etsy shop, or the channel in which you're choosing to use to serve your product to your customer. And then obviously the indirect is agents and distributors. But we're going to just take a look at the wholesale strategy from a direct perspective. So a couple of things that I just wanted to kind of guide you along here is and again, it's kind of very much so important that you've defined your market strategy and your target market. And Siobhan has mentioned this, particularly from a buyer and a retail point of view. And from your perspective as a as a creative and as a designer, as you're designing product, you're always considering who is going to be that end user. So you're also thinking of how am I going to target that end user? And has been indicated by my colleagues on the panel that research is so important in everything that you do. And it is always really exciting when you're developing something and you're creating something and and your family have said they love it and they think it's wonderful and you should, go and sell it to Brown Thomas. You really need to put a bit of research into it, particularly in discovering who is the buyer. And probably, again, because we're in a pandemic situation and we're not being able to necessarily get into our cars, maybe until the weekend when we can travel outside of our counties, but you're doing a lot of research online. You're investigating the buyer because obviously that's the B2B relationship, and you're understanding, themselves in their role and what department they're buying for. And you're maybe also looking and researching your competitors' websites in order to understand what type of product that sits nicely with your product and as such, and how their price structures, what their packaging is like, so you're doing a lot of research yourself and you're making a lot of comparisons. Yes, the other aspect is when we're free to do so, you might go on the road and you might go to meet the buyers. You may have already maybe made your introductions to them, but obviously we love the days when we're able to go to the showcase in Dublin and to gift it and all the fairs that we can go to attend, to present our products. But there's an opportunity now that there'll be virtual events that you can actually be attending. And the one thing that I would be very much, suggesting in the strategy is that, you don't miss those events. You maintain those contacts that you've established, and you can really make sure that you network as best you can there in that opportunities as they arise. Marion has mentioned about sales and the targets and the terms and conditions, and very much is the case, particularly from your wholesale strategy, is setting out your sales and target and your goals and your, expectation of, realistically your own operating and production costs, the logistics to get the number of units that you need to be making to make a profit. What are your own expectations and the resources that you have? And also, really at the end of the day, how can you deliver them? And, you need to put all and factor in all these costs. Which leads to, I suppose, the opportunity from a wholesale strategy is managing those multiple channels and, the natural blending of both the B2B and the D2C, which would be your retail and your wholesale offering. So kind of the importance there in able to do that is that you should be kind of keeping a record in some way of your buyers and what they're buying from the wholesale retail perspective, but also your own customers, so that you can differentiate what you're offering to them as far as kind of the range of products that you're planning on offering, but also in how you can secure your profit margins. So, keeping a report and able to manage it, because what you don't want to do if you've got a website and maybe you're offering some products to another e-commerce site, that you're not wanting to undercut your sellers, if you know what I mean. You're not wanting to undercut any prices, and you certainly want to keep a consistency there. So we've all mentioned managing relationships, and this is really an important one in every sales opportunity, is that, as you go out there and you're trying to engage with a buyer, as you're engaging with a buyer, it could be in the farmer's market when you started, that you're actually making sure that you maintain that relationship, and there's an authenticity that has to be, that you'll never get away from, particularly whenever you're using social media and online, and people that will discover you can see through you in a transparent way, particularly with social media being so prevalent at the moment. So the most important thing I would be saying also is those that are existing as buyers to you, that you're actually maintaining that relationship, and you're not, you know, discarding them, that every year there's small things that you might do in appreciation, whether that is, you know, you send them a card, or you're popping in to check your products, to check the competition, to ask relevant questions to your buyer who is placing an order, to even do some market research in comparison to how the product is merchandised and such like. So that is obviously something that that I know that both Siobhan and Marion have mentioned. So I suppose, again, from a marketing point of view, most essential is your own brand awareness. So as you started on your journey as a designer and a creative, you know, in order to make sure that you can convince others of how brilliant your product is, you know, you really have to establish that and make sure that your values and your principles are very much core to your offering. Because obviously the great aspect of having a wholesale account would be with, say, it could be Kilkenny Design, or it could be Carrick-Dunn, it could be Brown Thomas, that in obviously those big accounts, you would have customers can see a variety of your products, can see, you know, there's huge outlets, opportunities for establishing a wider relationship that can funnel then that customer to maybe your own individual website. So that is very positive. But to retain the brand identity is really, really important, because as a producer, you need to actually trust the retailer, and making sure that they can have the ability to retain obviously your brand identity, and how they present your brand is really important for their sake, but also for your sake. So Marion did mention this in terms of condition, but from a visual merchandising point of view, you might have an idea how you want your product to be presented, but the retailer may have a very different idea. And again, the same with the discounting, and that's something that Marion mentioned in relation to the terms and conditions, about agreeing, you know, your terms and conditions from the outset. And then also, as I've said, the marketing of your product is so important. You are responsible for your own marketing and also for your brand. And so you're curating this beautiful product, and that you want the customers to fall in love with, because that's going to be where your success lies. So the story behind telling people about your product is very much your responsibility, and needs obviously to be consistent. So that could be from the logo or the image and the standards in which you present yourself, because that's how you're going to get discovered by a buyer as well. So I just wanted to give you some examples just of what in my research of just, you know, how the route to market, you know, is you know, has many channels for your benefit. Just to give you an example, here is the Design Ireland website, and that's obviously an aggregator of all wonderful, amazing variety, not all of them in Ireland, but an aggregator of the crafts and the designs that are in the Design and Craft Council of Ireland. And they have a website that showcases that then obviously takes you the customer to the individual's own websites. So it's worth checking out, but it just gives you the opportunity that individual, that craft and creator has got many opportunities to sell, to find the end user and find their customer and find the loyalty. So it's worth having a look at the Design Ireland website just to get ideas as well. Another interesting one from a route to market and from your wholesale point of view is, again, the multi-channel here is the CC Creatives. And this was a pop-up shop that's in Waterford that came into my attention, which, because I've worked with some of the creatives and artisans there, and they have come together, and I've seen the benefit of working together as a unit, as a gift shop themselves. Now, that said, they also have their own websites, they have their own social media, and some are maybe on Etsy as well, and are using marketplaces and such like that. But they've come together just possibly because the opportunity exists now for an easier barrier to entry from a retail perspective into the urban centres. And there is 9 collectives in these pop-up shops, I'm sure around the whole country of Ireland, in all the small towns, that you may see some version of it, because a lot of these small artisan people felt, well, we can't do the markets anymore, so we're going to come together in a safe way and a compliant way, and they're using brick and mortar venture, as well as all online and e-commerce opportunities. And then just another example there is a producer, KKU, an Irish jeweler based in Kilkenny. And I just came across her because I was watching a Retail Excellence Ireland webinar. And interesting in her website is that she's offering her website, but she's offering the stockist. So she's showing the different channels in which she uses to for the customer to seamlessly be able to purchase from her. So just final thoughts and just some kind of quick takeaways for you to take away, just to, to conclude. Yes, trade shows are virtual at the moment, but there's lots of marketplace opportunities. And from the onset, that's what we've been discussing, that really the opportunities out there for all of you to wholesale and to reach your desired customer. Marketplaces like Etsy and Folksy and places like that have doubled in sellers in the last 6 to 12 months now because of the pandemic. Another suggestion would have been to list obviously yourselves with industry directories, not forgetting that, please God, that we will eventually be back to some level of normality, within the next, 6, maybe 12 months time. But also using the networks that are out there. And Mary mentioned the local enterprises, Enterprise Ireland, Design and Craft Council of Ireland here, the very businesses that are there to support you, are amazing. And you among your own, I suppose, colleagues and peers, join networks like, say, it could be a group that you might decide to set up or join on Facebook, or it could be a WhatsApp group, and you're sharing with each other, because really at the end of the day, everyone wants to see success for each other, and they can learn from each other. We can learn so much from each other. As I said, online continues, e-commerce just continues to grow and will not go anywhere. It'll just grow, but there is a place for both, for retail and brick and mortar, and for online. And something maybe that you maybe have considered or not is the opportunity to drop ship, if it is that you've become associated with, say, an e-commerce website where you can actually offer that you do the final fulfillment and deliver the goods on behalf of the e-commerce website that you've partnered with. Another suggestion would be partnering with influencers. You've seen a lot of them maybe with the social media platforms like Instagram, and there would be nano influencers in your area, or people that really like your product. It'd be worth maybe making connections with those individuals and setting up some type of an agreement with them in order for your product to be served to the right customer. Another suggestion as well would have been merchandising in the customer outlets. Now, I don't mean you can all rush in and start, redesigning, the Newbridge silverware section. I am suggesting that you would, having the relationship that you have with the buyers, but also going in and maybe at times explaining, your product more to some of the team, or to the manager owners, or to an assistant in the shop, and then just being able to, because if you're showing an interest, then naturally the retailer will be showing an interest. Yes, indeed. I've done it and I will continue to do it. There is also the cold visits or cold calling and prospecting, and that happens and has to happen, because that's how you learn. And I know myself, when I would have started out in wholesale, because I've done wholesale, I've done retail, I've done a lot in my background, that has to happen. And please, I would say, do not be afraid to learn from others. Do not stay in your studio and work and work and work. Go out and learn and visit and check and ask questions and promote yourselves. And that's really important. And then another suggestion is affiliate marketing. And that's, more of an e-commerce, and it's about linkages. And it is an investment part of it, where you would be, given credit to and commission to other websites and that. Working from home is obviously going to continue. There is going to be the options for the future for people working from home. So again, naturally, that sits really well, and with a lot of creative industries, designers, interior designers, textiles, jewelry, so people are going to be wanting nicer things and quality things and reappraising, because as we've said this, that's what we have done in the last while since we've been in lockdown. We've reappraised and become much more conscious. So I suppose, as I say, concludes multi-channel is, it's B2B and direct to the customer. And that's certainly going to be how we blend both. And that's, a decision that you should make. My final thought is, yes, making the best and the most out of the direct channel is through online, and certainly taking advantage of low-cost channels and the tools that are available. Obviously, I am now in marketing and very much so in digital marketing, but I'm very much a believer of traditional marketing too. But take advantage of the social media channels. Look into the third-party marketplaces for sure. There's lots of them. There's great opportunities to be had. But if you have your own e-commerce platform, look at that as a seamless fulfillment service. That has to be really important, because the rest of my panelists have mentioned that also, how important it is that, you know, if you made a commitment to delivery time, then you have to honor that. It's really important. And then measure things and get, you know, look at the return on your investment. And another one would be just emailing campaigns, or another way in which you can, you know, directly send communications of what you do. And yes, that's me. Thank you very much indeed for giving me.
Thank you so much. That was a whistle stop, really comprehensive tour, and I really like you ending on email campaigning. Throughout the 61 webinars that we've had, the social media theme that kept coming through was that it's a free channel that people don't necessarily utilize, you know, enough. So that was really, really interesting. What another point that you made was the retailer relationship, and I like your idea that we can all storm into Brian Thomas and completely re-merchandise your product. No, not quite that, but that relationship is extremely important, and to build the relationship and the links with them, because I do think that they are human, and I mean, as Siobhan says, we're all playing on the same team. Mm-hmm. And when you build up a relationship with them, they are more likely to remember you and remember your product if you yourself are showing an interest after the delivery, apart from, here are my terms and conditions, here's the invoice, where's the payment. So that's something really to take on board. Marion, back to you.
Okay.
On the nitty gritty of it, could you talk a little bit more about reservation of title? Because over the 61 webinars, I've been hearing the good, the bad, and the ugly about the relationship with retailers at the moment, particularly retailers have to pay the utilities and the ESB before their suppliers, and that there would be retailers who are going on, I mean, although we all think, some of us may think that they have deep old pockets, that they don't, and everything is going on, say, the sales that they made 2 weeks ago is paying the bills of this week, next week, and the following week. So from that, I'd like to take a scenario where I haven't been paid for my craft that I made 60 days ago.
First of all, if I'm the designer and I have given, say, Siobhan is the shopkeeper, I've given her my goods, we've agreed 30 days credit, first of all, Emer, and if she has sold my product after 3 weeks, she still has another week to 10 days before she pays me. So you've got to appreciate your terms of trading, right? But reservation of title means the goods are mine until they're paid for. But that does not give me the right in 6 or 8 weeks' time to go into Siobhan's shop and remove all the goods off of the shelf. I have to go down the legal channel. But where it does help is, say Siobhan's shop, forgive me Siobhan, now you're a bad business person, you're going out of business. If she went into liquidation or receivership and my goods are still on the shelf, I get them back. But I have no right to go in and remove things. I go and I negotiate with Siobhan. But really it should be prevention rather than cure. Now, if I had months ago, before I gave the first order into Siobhan, if I had checked her out, and it's very easy to do, all I had to do is, if it's not within a place, an area that I can walk in and look at the stock, but if I went online, I could see who she is stocking. All I would have to do is pick 2 or 3 good Irish craft people, pick up the phone and ask them, how is this woman for paying you? What's the relationship like? And the one thing I have found, Emer, down through the years, I mean, I'm a tax advisor. very cold, black, you know, you put things in boxes. I am been amazed at how many craft people help each other. They tell everybody everything. They're very good at supporting each other. So if, for example, Siobhan had not paid me and I had done everything right, I really need to tell my colleagues, just be aware, she doesn't pay people. She closes the shop, she goes on holiday, she has changed, she's closed her business and reopened tomorrow morning under a new name, which happens in businesses. So it should be prevention rather than cure. And I think also because of the line of business I'm in, I'm a bit of a control freak. I like checking everything out, make sure if this, I wouldn't give, why, if I was a designer, why on earth would I spend years of being educated and gaining experience, make the most beautiful products, and then give them to the Siobhans of this world who aren't going to pay me? Forgive me, Siobhan, right? But do you know what I mean? Unless you're 99% sure you're going to get paid, why would you give your product away? But down through the years, Emer, dealing with craftspeople, I have found someone will ask them for something, and in their head, if they're new in the business, they will go, "Whippy, somebody wants my product." Of course somebody wants your product, especially if there's a good chance they're getting it for nothing. So, you know, prevention rather than cure.
Okay, Marion, thank you very much for that. Just as I asked you that question, I have another one on a similar topic. So anyway, we're back on the reservation of title. This is a question from Anne Harrington-Rees. Reservation of title, would this include the understanding that the maker/stroke designer holds copyright and this is not transferred with the sale of goods, or should this be stated separately on the invoice?
Oh, copyright is a minefield and it's totally separate.
Totally separate.
I mean, all that means is I make a half dozen beautiful ceramic mugs. I put them in a shop. I own them until they're paid for. But the whole copyright thing is something that should be looked into separately. Now, when we come out of COVID, the copyright offices here in Kilkenny, it is absolutely brilliant. You make an appointment and you go in and you sit with somebody and they'll go through all of that with you. Information is the biggest power, the biggest asset of any business. So they need to check these things out, you know. But I would say, Emer, for people going forward is to go forward with confidence. Because in April and May, I put together, you know, for the DCCI, a survival package coming out of COVID. And when I talked to people and I was saying, no, you've got time on your hands. These are all the things you do. You do your stock take, you clear your office, you clear your brain, you do research. And the majority of people were saying to me, Emer, what are you talking about? We've got no time. People, unless you or your family member got sick, otherwise the advantages coming out of COVID are immense. The amount of people who have redesigned their ranges, who have traded online, people who said to me they never even had a laptop before. There's one person we had to deal with, Emer, earlier in the year in August, and she told me that she was booked out until the end of February, couldn't take on any work. There was another lady down in the south of the country who had to go to the churchyard, the car park in her local church, to get broadband. And she went every day for about an hour to fill all her orders or take on board all her orders. But that's how busy people have become because of COVID. Because I'm a normal customer, I miss spending money. Whether I've got money or not, I'm itching to get out and spend money. And that should be to the advantage of all the craft people out there. Yep. The last thing I would say, Emer, if you don't mind, right, again, is plan. Right, every craft worker out there at the moment should, over Christmas, if they've got nothing to do for a couple of hours with a glass of wine, plan 2021. Assume that we're going to be resuming, say, the 1st of April. And that was the date I picked last March. And I thought we need the year, but with the vaccine, look at maybe the 1st of March, some shoots coming up, and look at what can they possibly do and what money they can earn and what means they can earn money from the 1st of April to the 31st of December. How much do they need to earn? Would they be better wholesale? Would they be better direct, etc.? But planning will really empower people so much.
Yes, Marion, thank you. Thank you for that. You're definitely right. And I am hearing, and I hope it's reiterated with the entire audience, that people's major problem at the moment are raw material supply lines.
Okay.
And that some designer makers are only able to offer vouchers for Christmas as Christmas gifts to deliver in February, March. And this is something, it's not just anecdotal. I mean, I'm hearing it again and again and again. And when I did the Doubting Thomas, 2 or 3 people actually showed me their books and they said, Emer, I cannot make anything until next March. So raw materials are an issue. But I think it's absolutely super the way everyone has come up to the mark and is doing so well and working so hard. And Marion, thank you so much for saying take that time out and be kind to themselves and plan for next year. I have lots and lots of questions coming in here. I want to turn to one now. On the pricing of your product, what should your policy be between your own website and sites of retailers that you supply so that you don't upset the relationship going forward, Nuala? Nuala,
Yeah, so I'm muted. Yes, that's an interesting one, because what you don't want to do is unsettle a relationship that you've established if you start undercutting, you know, the your other website, you know, if it's a stockist. So I would be maybe possibly, it depends on what you're producing as a designer, that you might decide, well, what I offer on one website is a different range of product to that I offer on my own. But I would be saying you've got to actually have the same price if you know, it's so discoverable really at the end of the day. Otherwise you'll lose a customer, you know, in your course.
Yes, that I think that's very true. It's discoverable. I mean, everything is discoverable now. Okay, nice little comment here from Dan. Okay, appropriate PR channels and influencers are critical. I cannot overemphasize the importance of the personal touch by the maker to potential clients. Now, Nuala, would you like to take that one again, please?
Yeah, no problem. Yes, absolutely. I see a lot, particularly as Dan said there, having, you know, good influencers that do reflect your product well, though. So you have to be as discerning in choosing who represents your brand for you, and possibly, you know, I would definitely be emphasizing that there is some arrangement in a term and condition with them, agreeing what they get, you know, have it in writing. If it is that you're entering into a relationship with a nano influencer. A nano influencer could be somebody over 1,000 followers. It doesn't have to be up in the millions, you know what I mean? I'd imagine those in the millions are like the Kardashians. So I'm looking at local, and I'm saying there's lots of local influencers that you could be obviously having a business relationship with. But you need to set out the terms and how they post something for you on their either on their Instagram or feeds or whatever, Facebook, and set out a term and condition and how you pay them based on the number of sales that they'll get. And usually that happens by a code or a, you know, a bonus. So they may share a post and mention, you know, their name, and that's how they will get rewarded basically by you. So but it's very, very valuable. Yeah, very valuable.
Okay, I have someone here and she's thanking us for the wonderful information, and she's finding it difficult to know about wholesale pricing. So she said that she joined late, so I suggest that you re-listen to this particular webinar and then maybe go back to others as well, particularly one where we dealt with retail pricing and VAT. Siobhan will remember that one. But can Marion, you summarize in 4 points what does one need to realize about wholesale pricing?
Can I emphasize in 4 points what, Emer? Sorry.
Wholesale pricing.
Wholesale pricing.
Yeah.
I mean, how to do it, like, or
yeah. Quickly.
Okay. Well, when I'm doing the exercises with people, I tell them to look at 3 major things. One is the cost of their raw materials and overheads, raw materials and stock, the cost of their production hours and their overheads. Now, those three things are not the easiest things to do. I think on your studio wall, you need a timesheet for yourself, and you need a list of all the raw materials you buy, because you don't buy raw materials to make one thing. It makes a dozen things or whatever. And I've had people saying to me, oh, that took me 3 hours. Oh, no, wait, I think it cost me 6 hours. It took me 6 hours. You need a timesheet, 5 minutes for this, 10 minutes for that, etc. And your overheads, and you need to tot all those. And when you have the cost for the three of them done, that is your break even. You cannot sell less than that price. And then you will add on a proposed profit, right? So they're the three things that you will look at when you're costing your product, right? But the fourth thing you have to also look at is when you have your break even, then you've got to consider your competitors. If your break even is 40 euro and a competitor is selling something for 200 euro or for 20 euro, you've got to look at what kind of market you fit into, etc. But you've got to do the nitty gritty and calculate your break even price.
Okay, Marion, thank you very much for that whistle-stop tour of it. I'll add something very controversial. I am very keen that makers aim for, unless you're choosing a lifestyle differently, but to be selling above the VAT threshold, okay? So objectives should be, if possible, to be over 75,000. And with that in mind, I believe you should be pricing with that in mind from the beginning. Would you agree with me, Marion, or not?
Emer, it depends on the business.
Okay.
I mean, you will have people listening to you today that will absolutely freak out if they think they don't have a good business because they're not
I wasn't inferring that. I wasn't inferring that.
I know you weren't, but people sometimes hear what they want to hear, you know. I mean, yes, it would be good. The more turnover somebody has, the better. But there will be lots of people that we have met down through the years that will never hit 75,000, largely because of their lifestyles and their choices. Because some people will be part-time, etc. So I think sort of when you're looking at and planning your business, you've got to look at what do you need? Are you a full-time maker? Is this business a lifestyle business that's subsidizing something else, etc.? But a full-time business, yes, 75,000 of a turnover would be grand. You know, especially if they're going to buy or sell overseas. Because the advantages of being registered for VAT when you're buying or selling overseas is just brilliant for your cash flow, because you will not charge VAT and whoever you're buying for will not charge VAT if it's in another EU country. And a lot of our makers, or your makers, sorry, Emer, a lot of your makers will buy in Britain. Now, 2 weeks' time, we don't know what's going to happen, that they're no longer part of the EU, you know. But if you're buying yarn or something from Italy or France or something, it is a big advantage to be registered for VAT. But then, Emer, you can register for VAT when you're less than 75,000. It's when you hit 75,000 you have to register. But you know, I've got clients who make 10 grand a year and are registered for VAT because there are advantages in it. Okay.
So I'm just trying to be as fair to everybody. And I work with quite a lot of people who are in that just below, you know, the kind of 65, 70 bracket, and they're beginning to worry because of the quantum leap that they're, you know, that they're facing. That's really where I'm coming from.
Well, then they should revisit their pricing strategy and make sure the prices going forward will take in the VAT. But again, they've got to look at who do they sell it to. If a lot of them are selling a wholesale, all of the retailers will be registered for VAT. So they don't care. I mean, they'll buy the product, say, from me, including the 23% VAT, but they will come back to the base price, because when they're doing their bi-monthly VAT return, they're claiming back the 23% they've paid me. The only way that somebody will suffer once they've registered for VAT, if they're selling to the general public, if you're selling online or you're selling at the market, because the customer, the person who finally buys it from you, is the person that suffers the VAT. So they've got to look at their route to markets again, you know.
Exactly.
Okay.
Do you, Siobhan, thank you, Marion. Do you have any closing comments for us, Siobhan? from the retailer perspective.
Just touching on the pricing that Marion went through perfectly. From you know, as a retail buyer, I always try to tell anyone trying to price their goods what a buyer is going to expect. And I can tell you, in my shoes, I'm going to ask you for a discount. I am always going to ask you for a discount. So I always encourage people to start to pad out their prices to allow for discounts, to allow for any damages in your production. So there are lots of, Marion's quite right. It's kind of a minefield trying to get your pricing right, especially your time. You know, time is, you know, I think a lot of people don't think that their time is as valuable as it is. But definitely when you're making that little step, that little ladder up to what you're going to charge wholesale and what you're going to give as your recommended retail, make sure, because I'm looking for a really nice, healthy margin. So I'm going to say, well, this is my starting point at your wholesale. What are you willing to reduce for me? I'm not taking it off here. I want you to take it off here. So be prepared. Have that, I shouldn't even be saying that, but have that buffer in there so you can work on discounts. If the orders are small, you don't have to offer those discounts and you've made yourself more money. But if it's a bigger account, then you are not losing money. You have created a lovely little buffer for yourself, and you're still making the margin that you expected to make. Yeah.
Thank you, Siobhan.
Sure.
Listen, it's been wonderful to be here this afternoon. I'd like to thank our three panelists. Their information has been invaluable, and I'm sure we'll reconvene and get together in the new year. I'd like to thank the audience that I've had. Apparently it's nearly 10,000, which is pretty scary for me, since last March, and everyone's been through a really difficult time. You've raised your game, you've stood up to the challenges. An awful lot of fabulous innovative products, routes to markets have been found for the last 8 or 9 months. And I think everybody deserves a nice, relaxing Christmas. I had some suggestions during the year from designer makers on webinars, and I have not forgotten them. We are going to deal with them and incorporate them into the new year, and we will have lots of exciting stuff ahead. So I'd like to thank all of you for having the patience to have tolerated me since the 25th of March. And more importantly, today, I was delighted to have Siobhan, Nuala, and Marion with me. So thank you very much, everyone. And thank you to our audience. And I'm going to let our audience go. And ladies, can I ask you to stay with me just for a couple of minutes while I wish you a happy Christmas. So happy Christmas, everyone. And thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Emer.
Yeah, thank you, Emer. Happy Christmas, everyone.
It's like nobody wants to hang up. Okay, Emer, I'm going to go and wish you girls a happy Christmas.
Okay, I'll catch up with you later. I just wanted to talk.
And listen, you stay safe.
Yeah, Marion, okay. I'll give you a call later. Siobhan and Nuala, can I hold on to this for a second?
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye, Marion. Take care.
Bye, Marion. Thank you.
Happy Christmas.
Yeah.
Happy Christmas.
Do you know what I might do, ladies? I might come back to you. Hold on. We're getting there. Sometimes the Zoom links are difficult to disconnect on. I just want to catch up with the two of you on a couple of mentoring things. So do you mind if I send you a new link and we'll go through? Yeah, no problem at all. I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Thanks a million. Thank you.